I've loved your work since Empire Falls. And even though Bridge of Sighs was published in 2007, I only recently discovered it for the first time. And I have to tell you, I was brought into the story, of course, by Lucy, but also I grew up working in my father's store, which was the E&W Market in Nashville, with a barber shop connected to the store. And my father's store reminded me so much of Ike's. And so I'm curious as to how you came to this name. What does the title symbolize in the context of the story, The Bridge of Sighs?
Well, I think a lot of the characters in this book are Lucy, certainly, but not only Lucy, are at a point in their lives where I wouldn't say they're exactly despairing, but they're stressed, certainly, and they're thinking about where their lives are at the moment. And I think that just how high the stakes are for almost all of the characters in this book led me in a way to The Bridge of Sighs, because as some of you may know, of course, Venice is a city of bridges.
Yeah.
Pontes, as they call them.
Yeah.
But the story of the actual Bridge of Sighs is one in which the courts were held on one side of the river, and the dungeons, the prison,
was on the other side.
Was on the other side.
Yeah.
And it's called the Bridge of Sighs because if you were convicted in the court, you would have to cross the Bridge of Sighs. And the legend has it that, of course, you would sigh crossing that bridge, because once you'd crossed it into
it's over.
Into the prison, you weren't coming out.
Yeah, it's pretty much over.
You wouldn't necessarily be executed, but you would spend the rest of your life there.
In the dungeon.
In the dungeon. And I think that's and the fact that Venice is one of my wife's and my favorite cities. And we visited there a lot. And so I was probably just looking for an excuse.
To use it? But do you think, obviously, you would know, but was it meant to reflect the emotional and, psychological journeys of the characters in any way?
Probably.
Yes?
I said, well, I wouldn't want you to think that authors know what they're doing when they write these books. Most of my books take me about anywhere from 3 to 4.5 years to write. This was the 4.5 year one. And during that time, we're basically feeling our way along, trying to figure out what's going on with these characters. And
which is always so fascinating to me. Doesn't that fascinate you? Because when I sit down to write something, I generally know what I'm going to write.
Yeah.
I know why I'm going to write it, because I write my own speeches. It's never like I'm just waiting to find what the speech is going to tell me.
Yeah.
It wants to do. So what's your writing process?
That's the illusion that a writer, if you spend 4.5 years on a book, the last final illusion is to convince your readers that you knew what you were doing from the beginning.
Yeah.
You can buy that if you want, but I don't recommend it because that's just not the way it works.
So you've been called the patron saint of small town fiction. I would agree with that. Do you think that this small town of Thomaston is a reflection of American life, or is it a reflection of the life that you grew up with?
In Gloversville, yes to both of those. I love small towns, Oprah, because they offer something that I think is so important. If you live in a big city, chances are that you live in a neighborhood full of people like you. I remember when my daughter Emily moved to New York, and she was working with a literary agency at the time, but she was living in Brooklyn, and she could tell by looking at the other people on her subway car, she could tell where they were going to get off. Mm-hmm. Because most of those people looked like her. They're probably the same age. They had the same amount of education. All of those things became identifiable as to where they were going to get off in Brooklyn. The thing that's wonderful about small towns, especially if you're interested in class, as I am, the interesting thing about small towns is that the richest and most powerful people in the town have to cross paths with the poorest and the most disenfranchised and the most in danger.
Yeah.
They simply cannot escape each other. And so you have the Mrs. Whitings of the world from Empire Falls who are breathing the same air as like that poor boy John Voss who ends up shooting people.
Yes.
And that's why I think cities, I mean, an awful lot of fiction, an awful lot of American fiction, not just American fiction, gets written about cities because that's where a lot of things happen. But my God, small towns are just gold mines if you really want to understand America.
Yeah. I choose a lot of books that are based in small towns because you really get to understand the essence of who people are. And everybody knows everybody's business and everybody's connected. Well, I think one of the reasons why this story is so relatable is because you write about that struggle that so many people have in staying in their hometown or leaving their hometown. Anybody here grew up in a small town? Yeah. Okay, here's a great line from page 3 about Lucy and Sarah's choice to stay. You say, some people, upon learning how we've lived our lives, are unable to conceal their chagrin on our behalf, that our lives should be so limited, as if experience so geographically circumscribed could be neither rich nor satisfying. When I assure them that it's been both, their smiles suggest we've been blessed with self-deception by way of compensation for all we've missed. I think that's so interesting, and it brings us to your question. James?
Yeah, I grew up in a small town of 3,000 people in Canada. The type of town that assumes your identity even before you know that. I didn't come out until my 30s, yet I think people knew long before I did. It's the town that raised me. My mother still lives there. It's a part of me, but there's this theme of self-exposure that we have no control over, intentional concealment, this hiding in plain sight, and also this tension between origin and becoming. And so the question I have for you is, what does it take to leave the town that raised you? And when we come back, do we ever get to be the true version of the person we became?
Good question.
James.
Good.
James.
Well, I would begin by saying that's what I did. I mean, I left my small mill town in upstate New York at my mother's insistence. Really, she had a plan for me, and we followed basically the diagram for her plan. And for a while, it kind of worked. We left upstate New York for Tucson, Arizona, and I found a new life there. I think that one of the things that surprised my mother, who tried and fought so hard for us to, as she put it, escape this place, one of the things that surprised her the most was that I would find my way back there. I mean, I've never lived in Gloversville since leaving that place. I go back and I visit. I still have family there. There are still people that I love there. But I've never lived there. But I would also say, if this kind of answers your question, is that if you read my novels, I think it would be almost as fair to say that I never left.
Yeah.